In this video, we're breaking down 2 hours of Adventure Time mysteries and theories. Let's get started, starting it off with the thing that changes how you watch the entire show, the Mushroom War, and why it wasn't just a war. Adventure Time looks like a goofy cartoon about a boy and his stretchy dog fighting candy zombies and hanging out with princesses. The colours are bright, the jokes are silly. There's a penguin named Gunter who knocks stuff off tables. It's a kids' show, right? Except it isn't. Underneath the bright colours and weird humour is one of the darkest post-apocalyptic stories ever told on television. A story about nuclear annihilation, the near-total extinction of humanity, 1,000 years of silence, and the strange civilizations that grew out of the radioactive ashes of everything we destroyed. And the show never sits you down and explains this. It just leaves the evidence scattered everywhere, in the background of shots, in throwaway lines, in blink-and-you-miss-it details that completely recontextualize the entire world Finn and Jake live in. So, let's talk about what actually happened. The land of Oo is Earth. Not a fantasy world, not an alternate dimension. It is the planet Earth, roughly 1,000 years after a nuclear conflict, called the Great Mushroom War. The name comes from the mushroom-shaped clouds produced by nuclear detonations. That's not fan theory. That's the show's confirmed canon, established across dozens of episodes and explicitly stated in the show's lore. The opening title sequence alone shows nuclear bombs half buried in the ground next to swords and axes. Every single time you see that intro, the show is telling you that this colourful magical world was built on top of a graveyard. Now here's where it gets interesting, because the show actually gives us enough clues to figure out roughly when the war happened. In the episode Simon and Marcy, which is season 5, episode 14, we get a flashback showing Simon Petrikov, the man who would become the Ice King, protecting a 7-year-old Marceline in the aftermath of the war. The episode includes an explicit time card stating this takes place 996 years before the present day of the show, so the war ended approximately 1,000 years before Finn and Jake's adventures. But what year was that in our calendar? The show drops breadcrumbs everywhere. In the episode Simon Petrikov, month Simon is shown living in a museum exhibit called 20th Century Man in His Natural Habitat, which tells us the war happened sometime during or shortly after the 20th century. But we can narrow it further. Lumpy Space Princess wears a wedding dress in one episode that is canonically Princess Diana's actual dress, dug up from her grave. Princess Diana was buried on September 6th, 1997, meaning the war couldn't have started before that date. Then there are the photographs in the episode Ketchup showing Marceline and her mother during what appears to be a solar eclipse, and fans have cross-referenced those with actual eclipse dates to narrow the timeline even further. On top of that, the episode Bonnibel Bubblegum shows F-117 stealth bombers, which were decommissioned in 2008. When you put all of this together, the Mushroom War most likely occurred sometime between 2007 and 2010. That's not ancient history. That's roughly the same time Adventure Time itself premiered on Cartoon Network. The show is telling you that the apocalypse happened right around the time you were sitting on your couch watching cartoons. But here's where things get truly unsettling, because the mushroom bomb wasn't a normal nuclear weapon. This is canon. The bomb that ended the world didn't just destroy cities and irradiate the landscape the way a conventional nuke would. It was mutagenic. The bomb's fallout literally rewrote the biological code of everything it touched. Plants became sentient. Animals gained intelligence and speech. Inanimate objects came to life. And magic, which the show establishes had been declining throughout human history, basically suddenly came roaring back in full force. Think about what that means for a second. A regular nuclear bomb kills everything nearby and leaves radiation. This bomb transformed everything it touched into something new. It didn't end life. It fundamentally altered what life meant on this planet. And the biggest thing the bomb did? it awakened the Lich. The Lich is Adventure Time's primary antagonist, an ancient undead sorcerer who wants nothing less than the extinction of all life in every dimension. And the show explicitly connects the Lich's physical manifestation to the mushroom bomb's detonation. In the Farm World timeline, shown in the Season 5 premiere, Finn the Human, Simon Petrikov manages to freeze the mushroom bomb before it detonates. He's crushed and killed in the process, but the bomb never goes off. And in that timeline, the Lich never appears. No bomb, no Lich. That's a direct causal link the show establishes in canon. But wait, if the Lich only manifested because of this specific bomb, that means the bomb wasn't random. The bomb's fallout is green, not the typical orange or red of a nuclear detonation. The Lich's well of power, the source of his strength, sits at the exact detonation point of the bomb. The radiation from this bomb didn't just poison the land, it created a permanent power source for an entity of pure destruction. This is where the theory takes shape. The Mushroom War wasn't a conventional nuclear conflict between nations fighting over resources or territory. Someone or something designed a weapon specifically intended to channel an ancient cosmic force of annihilation into the physical world. The Lich existed as a concept, but as an entity, long before the bomb. We know this because the show later reveals the Lich is connected to forces that predate the universe itself. The bomb didn't create the Lich from nothing. It gave the Lich a body. It gave destruction a face. And if you're engineering a bomb to serve as a vessel for an ancient force of cosmic annihilation, that's not war. That's a summoning ritual disguised as a weapon of mass destruction. The evidence supports this reading. Normal nuclear fallout doesn't bring magic back to the world. Normal nuclear fallout doesn't mutate every living thing into sentient candy people and talking dogs and fire elementals. Normal nuclear fallout doesn't sit in a single location for 1,000 years, glowing green, feeding an undead sorcerer. Whatever the mushroom bomb was, it operated on principles that go far beyond nuclear physics. It operated on rules that look a lot more like magic than science. And the show gives us one more piece of evidence that ties everything together. In the Enchiridion and Marx's super-secret scrapbook, which is an official companion book to the series, Simon Petrikov notes that an international conflict is brewing between major world powers before the war. But the show also establishes that magical artifacts existed before the war. The Ice Crown existed, the Enchiridion existed, the Nitosphere existed. Magic was real, just suppressed and declining, which means whoever built the mushroom bomb had access to both nuclear technology and magical knowledge. They combined the two into something that shouldn't exist, a weapon that bridges physics and metaphysics. Art can destroy a city and summon an ancient evil in the same detonation. The Mushroom War killed nearly every human on Earth. The survivors either fled to islands far from the mainland, hid in underground shelters, or were hunted by the mutant creatures that emerged from the bomb's fallout. Vampires came out of hiding. Rainicorns emerged. Oozers, those creepy goo monsters we see in Simon and Marcy, started hunting the remaining humans through the ruins. Within a few years of the war's end, humanity was functionally extinct on the mainland. Ooh was born from the ashes, populated by candy people, fire people, ice creatures, and talking animals who built kingdoms on top of the bones of the old world. And buried underneath all of it, in every episode, in every background shot of a wrecked car, or a half-buried bomb, or a crumbling highway, X is the reminder that this world exists because we destroyed the last one. But the Mushroom War is just the surface. To understand what really happened, to understand why the Lich exists, why magic returned, why the same cycle of creation and destruction keeps repeating, you need to go back further, much further, before the war, before humanity, before the universe itself. Because the forces that destroyed the world didn't start with a bomb, they started with a comet, and that comet has been coming back every 1,000 years since the beginning of time. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to the Catalyst Comet cycle and the Lich's true nature. Here's something the show reveals slowly across multiple seasons that completely changes how you understand the Lich, the mushroom bomb, and the entire history of U. The destruction of Earth wasn't a one-time event. It was scheduled. It was part of a cycle that has been repeating since before life existed on this planet, driven by a cosmic phenomenon called the Catalyst Comet. Every 1,000 years, give or take, a massive comet enters Earth's orbit and impacts the planet. This is established in the Season 6 episode Evergreen, and further explained in Astral Plane, but these aren't ordinary comets made of ice and rock. They're agents of change. Every time one arrives, it brings with it a fundamental shift in the nature of existence on Earth. Sometimes the change is creative, sometimes it's destructive, but it always happens. And it's been happening for billions of years. Each catalyst comet has a distinct colour, and that colour matches the entity it eventually becomes. This is one of the most important details in the entire show because it tells you that the comets aren't random astronomical events. They're reincarnation vehicles, cosmic souls wrapped in ice and fire, aimed at Earth like bullets, each one carrying a specific purpose. Let's trace the ones we know about. During the Cretaceous period, roughly 65 million years ago, a green catalyst comet approached Earth, the ice elemental. At the time, a dinosaur named Urgence Evergreen tried to stop it. He built a magical crown designed to grant its wearer's deepest wish, planning to use it as a last resort to deflect the comet. His fellow elementals, Chatsberry, Balthus and Slimy D, opposed the plan because they feared the crown's power. Evergreen froze them and proceeded anyway. But he was incapacitated before he could wear the crown, and his apprentice, a young dinosaur, also named Gunther, put it on instead. The crown granted Gunther's deepest wish, which wasn't to stop the comet, but to be like Evergreen. The comet hit. The dinosaurs were wiped out. And that green comet? That was the Lich. The same Lich who would manifest physically when the mushroom bomb detonated thousands of years later. The green comet didn't just kill the dinosaurs and disappear. It persisted. It waited. And when humanity built a weapon powerful enough to serve as a conduit, the comet's essence poured through the mushroom bomb and gave the Lich his body. Now here's where Finn comes in, because Finn is also a catalyst comet. In the episode The Vault, Season 5, Episode 34, Finn undergoes hypnotic regression and discovers his past lives. He's lived as a blue catalyst comet, a butterfly, a pink interdimensional blob, and a one-armed thief named Shoko who lived during the early days of the Candy Kingdom. These aren't metaphors. These are literal past lives. Finn's soul has existed in multiple forms across millions of years, always cycling through death and rebirth. The blue comet struck Earth sometime after the Mushroom War, and its arrival brought the soul that would eventually be born as Finn the human. Being the incarnation of pure good, this comet's purpose was to create a hero capable of opposing the Lich's incarnation of pure destruction. Finn doesn't just happen to be the guy who fights the Lich. He was cosmically engineered to be the Lich's counterweight. Good versus evil, creation versus destruction, blue versus green. Two sides of the same eternal coin, colliding on Earth every 1,000 years in different forms. And the show makes this explicit in what might be the most important scene in the entire series. In the comet, the Season 6 finale, a purple catalyst comet appears and reveals itself to Finn as a conscious, godlike entity. The comet speaks to Finn directly and says, "I have embodied all that is good and evil." When it says good, the camera focuses on Finn's face. When it says evil, the Lich appears on screen. The comets contain both forces. They carry both potentials. And when they hit Earth, those potentials separate and manifest as opposing entities locked in a struggle that spans civilizations. This reframes the entire Lich mythology. The Lich isn't just some undead wizard who got powered up by a nuclear bomb. He's one incarnation in an eternal cycle of cosmic destruction that has been hitting Earth since before multicellular life existed. He's the green comet given flesh. The bomb didn't create him, it was just the latest doorway he walked through. And the cycle keeps turning. The show establishes that a yellow catalyst comet appeared thousands of years before the main series, and a primordial monster called Orgalorg, the Breaker of Worlds, tried to absorb it to gain its power. Abraham Lincoln, who is the King of Mars in Adventure Time's cosmology, because of course he is, ordered the four-headed deity Grob Gob Glob Grod to intervene. They incapacitated Orgalorg, and the monster fell to Earth, compressed by gravity into the form of a penguin. That penguin is Gunter, the Ice King's seemingly harmless sidekick who knocks stuff off tables. Think about that for a second. The cute penguin living with the Ice King is actually an ancient cosmic entity called the Breaker of Worlds, compressed into the form of a small bird by the force of Earth's gravity, waiting for another comet to absorb. And in the series finale, when the ice crown falls to the ground and Gunter picks it up, there's a moment of genuine terror because everyone realizes the ancient primordial monster Orgalorg is about to use the crown to make a wish. He wishes to be more like Gunter, and the crown transforms him into a new form of the Ice King, which is both hilarious and deeply unsettling when you understand what Gunter actually is. The Catalyst comets aren't just plot devices. They're the show's answer to the question of why anything happens. Why did the Mushroom War occur? Because the cycle required it. Nice, why does the Lich exist? Because destruction is one half of the comet's eternal purpose. Why was Finn born? Because creation is the other half. Why does the pattern repeat every 1,000 years? Because that's how long it takes for the comet to complete its orbit and return. The show even hints that the cycle is maintained by something. The comets don't just wander through space randomly. They arrive on schedule. They carry specific purposes. They match specific colors to specific entities. That's not chaos. That's a system. A delivery mechanism designed by something with the power to aim cosmic objects at a single planet across billions of years. In the episode Whispers, the Lich calls himself the Ceaseless Wheel, the last scholar of Golb. That phrase, the Ceaseless Wheel, implies circularity, eternal return, a cycle without beginning or end. And the last scholar of Golb connects the Lich not just to the comet cycle, but to something far older, far more terrifying, and far more fundamental to the nature of reality itself. The Lich serves Golb, the comets serve the cycle. But Golb is something else entirely, an entity so far beyond comprehension that even the most powerful beings in Adventure Time's multiverse can't defeat it. Prismo can't stop it, the Ice Crown can't destroy it, the combined armies of Oo can't even scratch it, and the only person who ever managed to neutralize Golb didn't destroy it. She became it. And that person's story is one of the most tragic love stories in the history of animation. Moving on to Golb, the god of chaos, and the sacrifice that changed everything. For most of Adventure Time's run, the show's biggest threat seemed to be the Lich, an undead sorcerer obsessed with ending all life. Scary, sure, but at least he was something the characters could fight. They punched him, trapped him, turned him into a baby. The Lich felt manageable. But then the show introduced something that made the Lich look like a minor inconvenience. Something that existed before the universe. Something that doesn't just want to destroy life, but fundamentally embodies the force that breaks down everything that exists. Golb. Golb first appears unnamed in a Season 5 episode called Puhoi. In that episode, Finn is transported to a place called Pillow World after retreating into a pillow fort. He lives an entire life there, gets married, has children, grows old, and when he dies in Pillow World, his soul flies through space on its way back to Oo, and he bounces off the tongue of a massive red creature with 4 eyes that tries to eat him. The creature is enormous, its mouth is a void, and the show doesn't explain it at all. It just shows you this terrifying thing in the darkness of space and moves on. That creature is Golb. But it takes more than 2 years before we even learn its name. In the Season 6 episode, You Forgot Your Floaties, Golb is finally identified, and the show reveals something that changes the scope of the entire series. Golb had previously attacked Mars, not just visited, attacked. And during that attack, Golb took Margles, the wife of a character called Magic Man, who later becomes King Man and then Normal Man. The word took is doing a lot of heavy lifting there, because Magic Man didn't just lose his wife. Toteki spent years travelling across the entire multiverse trying to find her. He searched countless dimensions and dead worlds, and what he concluded was devastating. Margles didn't exist anywhere. Not alive, not dead, not in any alternate timeline. She only existed in memory and in feeling, and nowhere else. Golb didn't kill Margles the way you or I understand death. Golb erased her from existence across all realities simultaneously. Every version of Margles, in every universe, was simply gone, as if she had never existed at all. That's not a villain. That's a force of nature that makes villains look quaint. In the Season 8 episode Whispers, the Lich refers to himself as the Ceaseless Wheel, the last scholar of Golb. That line sent the fan community into overdrive, and rightfully so, because it established a direct hierarchy. The Lich, like the show's most terrifying villain for 8 seasons, reports to Golb. The Lich isn't the final boss, he's middle management. Golb is the actual power at the top of the food chain. The show's creators designed Golb as the embodiment of chaos and discord. Not evil in the way the Lich is evil. The Lich wants extinction because he believes non-existence is the natural state of reality. Golb doesn't want anything. Golb simply is. Golb is the principle of entropy made manifest, the force that breaks everything down to its essential components. When Golb consumes something, it doesn't just die, it gets digested layer by layer, stripped back to its most fundamental form. It gets reset, and this property becomes critically important in the series finale, Come Along With Me. This 4-part episode was meant to wrap up the Great Gum War, tied to conflict between Princess Bubblegum and her uncle Gumbald for control of the Candy Kingdom. But the war becomes irrelevant almost immediately, because in the middle of the battle, the sky opens up and Golb descends onto Oo. Both sides of the war immediately stop fighting and join forces against this existential threat, but nothing works. Weapons bounce off Golb, magic doesn't affect it. Golb begins transforming Uncle Gumbald's soldiers into fused, monstrous creatures. The combined might of Oo's greatest heroes can't even slow it down. Then BMO does something extraordinary. BMO starts singing a song called Time Adventure, and the people around BMO join in. They create harmony together, and that harmony physically hurts GOLB, because GOLB is discord and harmony is the opposite of everything GOLB represents. The combined singing creates a force field that actually pushes Golb back. This is the show telling you that the only thing more powerful than the god of chaos is people choosing to create something beautiful together. It's corny, it's earnest, and it absolutely works within the show's mythology. But singing alone isn't enough to defeat Golb. Several characters get swallowed by the entity, including Finn, Simon Petrikov, and Betty Groff. Betty is Simon's former fiancée, the woman who lost him when the Ice Crown consumed his mind. She spent years studying magic, traveling through time, and slowly losing her own sanity in her obsessive quest to restore Simon. And now she's inside the stomach of the god of chaos, with the man she's been trying to save for decades. Inside Golb's stomach, something remarkable happens. The entity's digestive process strips things back to their essential forms, and for Simon Petrikov, that means being stripped of the Ice King's curse. Inside Golb, Simon is restored to himself for the first time in centuries. The crown's corruption is literally digested away. Betty finds herself holding the Ice Crown, which has reverted to what the show calls its primal wishing form, the original state it was in when Urgent's Evergreen first created it 65 million years ago. Betty has one wish. She could wish for anything, and she tries multiple times to use that wish to destroy Golb or make Golb disappear, but nothing works. Golb is too powerful. You can't wish away the fundamental force of entropy. So Betty makes a different wish. She wishes for the power to keep Simon safe forever. The crown grants that wish, but not in any way Betty intended. The wish merges Betty with Golb itself. Betty Groff, the human woman who went mad trying to save the man she loved, becomes fused with the god of chaos, creating a new entity that fans and the wiki call Golbetty. Betty ceases to exist as a person. She becomes a cosmic force. Golbetty rises through the portal in the sky and disappears, leaving behind only the crown and a heartbroken Simon Petrikov, who is finally, after 1,000 years, free of the crown's curse. The implications of this are staggering. Betty didn't defeat Golb, she hijacked it. The fundamental force of entropy in the Adventure Time universe is now being piloted, at least partially, by the consciousness of a woman whose single driving motivation was protecting Simon Petrikov. Golbetty isn't gone from the story. She appears again in the spin-off series Fiona and Cake, confirming that this merged entity is still out there, still active, still watching. Here's the theory that pulls all of this together. Golb was never evil. Golb was entropy, the natural, necessary force that breaks down systems so new things can grow. Without entropy, nothing changes. Without decay, nothing new can be born. Golb is the reason the catalyst comets exist, because the comets are tools of change, and change requires destruction of the old to make room for the new. The Lich serves Golb because the Lich is the localized agent of that destruction, the hands doing the work that Golb's nature demands. And Betty's sacrifice didn't save just Simon, it potentially saved every universe in the multiverse. Because now the force of cosmic entropy has a human heart somewhere inside it. A heart that loved so fiercely it chose to become the thing it feared most in order to protect one man. Golbetty isn't the god of chaos anymore. She's the god of chaos with a conscience, and that distinction might be the only reason reality continues to exist. Betty sacrificed everything to save Simon, but Simon's story, the story of the Ice Crown, the story of a man who lost his mind to save a child, might be the most tragic tale in all of animation. And the crown that destroyed him wasn't built for him. It was built 65 million years ago for a dinosaur. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to the Ice Crown and the 65 million year old curse that destroyed Simon Petrikov. If you've watched Adventure Time casually, you probably know the Ice King as the goofy blue-skinned weirdo who kidnaps princesses and plays drums badly and talks to penguins. He's comic relief. He's annoying. He shows up, does something embarrassing, and either gets punched by Finn or just kind of wanders away. For the first 2 seasons, that's basically all he is. And then the show pulls back the curtain and you discover that the Ice King is actually the most tragic character in the history of animation. Because the Ice King used to be a man. A normal, kind, intelligent human man named Simon Petrikov. An antiquarian and researcher who loved his fiancée Betty and collected ancient artifacts for a living, and the crown he wears, the crown that gives him ice powers and turns him into a deranged kidnapper, wasn't built for him. It was built 65 million years ago, during the age of the dinosaurs, for an entirely different purpose, and it's been running the same corrupted wish ever since. Let's go back to the beginning, way back. In the episode Evergreen, Season 6, Episode 24, the show takes us to the Cretaceous period. Earth is home to 4 elementals, beings who embody the fundamental forces of the planet. The ice elemental is a dinosaur named Urgent Evergreen. He's brilliant, powerful, and deeply paranoid. When he detects a green catalyst comet on a collision course with Earth, a comet that will wipe out all life, he decides to build a failsafe, a magical crown that grants its wearer their deepest wish. Evergreen's plan was simple. Wear the crown, wish for the comet to be destroyed, save the world. His fellow elementals, Chatsbury, Balthus, and Slimy D, refused to help. They argued that the comet was part of the natural cycle of change, that Evergreen's crown was too dangerous, that interfering with cosmic forces could cause damage far worse than the comet itself. Evergreen responded by freezing them solid and proceeding with his plan anyway. Already, you can see the pattern that will repeat through every wearer of this crown. The arrogance, the willingness to override everyone else's judgment, the certainty that they alone know what's best. Evergreen had an apprentice, a small dinosaur he also called Gunther. Evergreen treated Gunther terribly. He was dismissive, cold, demanding, and cruel. He used Gunther as a servant and showed him almost zero affection. But Gunther worshipped Evergreen anyway, the way a neglected child still loves an abusive parent. When asked about his deepest wish, Gunther's answer was simple. "I wish to be just like you, Urgent." Evergreen never heard this. He never understood what Gunther wanted because he never bothered to ask. When the comet arrived, Evergreen was incapacitated before he could reach the crown. In desperation, he screamed at Gunther to put the crown on and wish for the comet to be destroyed. Gunther obeyed. He put on the crown, but the crown doesn't grant what you ask for. It grants your deepest wish, and Gunther's deepest wish wasn't to stop the comet. It was to be like Evergreen. The crown began transforming Gunther into what Gunther truly saw Evergreen as. Not the brilliant scientist, or the ice elemental, or the hero trying to save the world. Gunther saw Evergreen as a cold, angry, controlling figure who hoarded power and yelled a lot. So that's what the crown made Gunther become, a mad ice wizard. The comet hit, the dinosaurs perished, and the crown's curse was set, permanently locked into Gunther's interpretation of Evergreen, running that same corrupted wish for the next 65 million years. That's the origin of the Ice King, not a villain's curse, not dark magic from an evil sorcerer, a scared child's distorted perception of his father figure, crystallized into an artifact that corrupts everyone who touches it. Fast forward to the modern era, roughly 1,000 years before the main series. Simon Petrikoff, a human antiquarian, purchases a strange crown at an estate sale near a Scandinavian dock. He puts it on as a joke. He blacks out. When he comes to, his fiancée Betty is staring at him in terror. He'd been screaming and throwing things, completely out of his mind. That was the first episode, the first time the crown took control. In Holly Jolly Secrets, Part 2, Season 3, Episode 20, Finn and Jake discover Simon's video diaries documenting his slow descent into madness. The tapes are genuinely heartbreaking. In the first recordings, Simon is coherent and scared. He describes putting on the crown and losing time. He mentions that Betty has left him and his voice cracks. As the tapes progress, his skin turns blue, his nose grows, his behavior becomes more erratic. He starts talking to people who aren't there. He starts losing the ability to remember who he is. In the final tapes, Simon is almost completely gone, replaced by the personality that will become the Ice King. The man is disappearing in real time, and he knows it, and he can't stop it. The show also establishes, through the flashback episode I Remember You, that Simon found young Marceline crying in the ruins of the world after the Mushroom War. She was 7 years old, alone. Her father, Hunson Abadir, was nowhere to be found. Simon took care of her. He sang to her. He fought off mutant creatures to protect her. He scavenged food and supplies while the crown slowly ate his mind. Every time he put the crown on to use its ice powers in defense of Marceline, he lost a little more of himself. He was choosing consciously to sacrifice his sanity to keep a child alive. And the most devastating detail of all, when Simon finally lost himself completely and became the Ice King, he forgot Marceline. He forgot he'd ever known her. He forgot the little girl he'd protected through the apocalypse. When the Ice King meets Marceline in the present day, he has no idea who she is. She's just another princess to kidnap, and Marceline has to smile and pretend it doesn't destroy her every time she sees the hollow shell of the man who saved her life. Now here's what makes the crown mythology even more horrifying. It works the same way in every timeline. In the Farm World alternate universe shown in Finn the Human, Simon Petrikov froze the mushroom bomb before it could detonate, saving the world but dying in the process. The crown sat next to his frozen corpse for 1,000 years. When Farm World Finn eventually puts it on, the exact same curse activates. Farm World Finn starts going mad. His skin changes. He becomes an ice-wielding version of himself with all the same symptoms Simon displayed. The crown isn't responding to its current wearer's personality. It's still running Gunther's wish from 65 million years ago. Every single person who wears it doesn't become a version of themselves with ice powers. They become a version of what a baby dinosaur thought his abusive father was like. The show's writers confirmed this reading. The Ice King's obsession with princesses, his need to kidnap them and force them to like him, that's Gunther's childlike understanding of Evergreen's relationship to other elementals, filtered through 1,000,000 generations of distortion. Evergreen was connected to the other elementals. He had power over them. In Gunther's young mind, that looked like a king controlling princesses. So every crown wearer develops an inexplicable obsession with capturing princesses, because a dinosaur child couldn't distinguish between elemental bonds and royal kidnapping. The Ice Crown is a 65-million-year-old monument to parental neglect. Evergreen was too self-absorbed to notice what his apprentice actually wanted. Gunther was too young and desperate for approval to wish for anything except his master's attention. And the crown, that incredibly powerful, magical artifact designed to save the world, ended up destroying everyone who touched it, because the first person to use it was a scared kid who just wanted his dad to love him. Simon Petrikov spent 1,000 years trapped inside that wish, slowly erased by the ghost of a child's broken heart. And when he was finally freed in the series finale, pulled from the curse by Golb's digestive process, the first thing he had to face was the knowledge that Betty, the woman who loved him, had sacrificed her entire existence to make it happen. The Ice Crown's curse wasn't malicious. It wasn't designed to hurt anyone. It was a child's love gone wrong, amplified by cosmic power into an eternal loop of madness that consumed everyone it touched for 65 million years. That's not a villain origin story. That's a Greek tragedy wearing a cartoon costume. Simon lost himself to save Marceline, but Marceline's story goes even deeper. She's over 1,000 years old. She watched the world end. She survived because her father, the Lord of Evil himself, abandoned her in the middle of the apocalypse. And the 1,000 years that followed might be the loneliest existence any fictional character has ever endured. Moving on to Marceline, the vampire queen, and 1,000 years of loneliness. Marceline, the vampire queen, is over 1,000 years old. She plays bass guitar, she floats around, she eats the colour red, and she has the general demeanour of someone who has seen too much and decided the only healthy response is to not care about anything. She's the cool character, the one with the leather jacket and the attitude. But underneath all of that, Marceline Abadir might be the most emotionally devastated character in Adventure Time, and possibly in the entire history of animated television. Because when you lay out the actual events of her life in chronological order, it reads like a horror story about abandonment. Marceline is half human, half demon. Her mother was a human woman named Elise. Her father is Hunson Abadir, the immortal ruler of the Nightosphere, which is essentially Adventure Time's version of a demonic dimension. Marceline was born sometime before the Mushroom War, that making her one of the very few characters in the show who existed in the old world, the world that looks like ours before everything was destroyed. Her mother, Elise, died. The show doesn't go into extensive detail about the circumstances, but it's established through background images and the Stakes miniseries that Elise was present in Marceline's early childhood and then wasn't. Some evidence suggests she died from the fallout of the Mushroom War itself. Either way, Marceline lost her mother as a very young child. Her father, Hunson Abadir, is a different kind of loss. He didn't die, he just wasn't there. When the mushroom bomb dropped and the world ended, Hunson was almost certainly in the Nightosphere, his home dimension. He didn't come for Marceline. In the episode I Remember You, Season 4, Episode 25, we see fragments of the immediate aftermath. Young Marceline, approximately 7 years old based on the timestamp in Simon and Marcy, is alone in the wreckage of a destroyed city. She's crying. In one scene, she's visibly mouthing the word, Daddy. Hunson Abadir is nowhere. Instead, the person who found Marceline was Simon Petrikov, a human stranger wearing a crown that was slowly destroying his mind. Simon didn't have to take care of this child. He was dealing with his own catastrophe, losing himself piece by piece to the Ice Crown's curse. But he saw a little girl alone in the ruins of the world, and he chose to stay. The episode Simon and Marcy, which takes place 996 years before the present, shows us what that relationship looked like. Simon scavenging for chicken soup to feed Marceline when she was sick. Simon fighting off mutant oozers while the crown whispered madness into his brain. Simon singing the theme song to a pre-war television show called Cheers to make Marceline laugh when she was scared. Every act of kindness cost him a piece of his sanity, because using the crown's powers meant giving the curse more control over his mind. He knew this. He used the crown anyway, because the alternative was letting a 7-year-old girl die in the radioactive ruins of civilization. And then Simon lost himself. The man who sang to Marceline and fought monsters for her and stayed up at night making sure she was safe simply stopped existing. The Ice King took his place, a ranting, delusional creature who had no memory of Marceline, no memory of the apocalypse, no memory of the sacrifice he had made. Marceline was alone again, except this time, the person who abandoned her was standing right in front of her, wearing the same face, and had absolutely no idea who she was. This is confirmed as one of the show's most emotionally devastating dynamics. Throughout the series, Ice King encounters Marceline repeatedly. He talks to her. Sometimes they even hang out. But he has no idea that he used to be Simon, and he has no idea that Marceline is the little girl he saved. And Marceline can't tell him, because what would be the point? The man she knew is gone. The Ice King is a stranger wearing his body. In I Remember You, Marceline discovers that Simon left her a note before he lost himself completely. The note contains lyrics that would later become a song between them. Simon wrote the words while he could still think clearly, knowing he was about to disappear forever. now leaving behind the only coherent thoughts he could manage for the girl he was about to forget. The episode ends with Marceline and the Ice King singing together, with Marceline crying and the Ice King having no idea why. After Simon was gone, Marceline spent centuries alone. The Stakes miniseries in Season 7 fills in some of this history. After the Mushroom War, the surviving humans on the mainland were being hunted by vampires who had emerged from hiding now that civilization had collapsed. Marceline, still a young girl, became a vampire hunter. She fought to protect the remaining humans, including a group led by a man called Two-Bread Tom, who were trying to sail away from the mainland to safety. But Marceline was eventually bitten and turned by the Vampire King. She became the thing she was hunting, and the humans she was trying to protect sailed away without her, eventually settling on distant islands far from Ooo. Marceline was left behind, undead, essentially immortal, watching as the world slowly rebuilt itself around her while she stayed the same. Think about the timeline. Marceline lost her mother. Her father abandoned her during the apocalypse. The man who saved her life forgot she existed. She was turned into a vampire while trying to save humanity, and then she spent roughly 1,000 years watching kingdoms rise and fall, watching people she cared about age and die, while she remained unchanged. By the time Finn and Jake come along, Marceline has been alive for over a millennium. She's seen civilizations built on the bones of civilizations that were built on the bones of the one she grew up in. Her punk rock attitude, her emotional detachment, her difficulty maintaining close relationships, all of it makes sense when you understand that Marceline has been through 1,000 years of loss. Every relationship she forms is temporary because she's immortal and everyone else isn't. Princess Bubblegum is the exception, being nearly as old as Marceline, which explains why their relationship is the most important one in Marceline's life. Bubblegum is the one person who won't age and die while Marceline watches. The show confirms their romantic relationship in the series finale when they kiss during the battle against Golb, but the depth of what that relationship represents goes far beyond romance. Bubblegum is Marceline's proof that permanence is possible, that she doesn't have to lose everyone, that after 1,000 years of saying goodbye, there's someone who will still be there tomorrow. And Hunson Abadir, he eventually shows up in Marceline's life, but always on his own terms. He's not cruel exactly. He's just fundamentally incapable of being a present father. He's the ruler of a demonic dimension. He has responsibilities that have nothing to do with his daughter. And when he does interact with Marceline, it's often to cause chaos, like eating the souls of her friends or trying to drag her into the Nightosphere to take over the family business. He loves Marceline in his own way, but his way involves leaving a child alone in the apocalypse and then showing up 1,000 years later like nothing happened. Marceline's story is the emotional backbone of Adventure Time's mythology, because she's the one character who connects all the eras. She was alive before the war. She survived the war as a child. She lived through the immediate aftermath, the vampire era, the rise of the Candy Kingdom, the building of civilization in Ooo, and the modern adventures of Finn and Jake. She's the living thread that ties the pre-war world to the present. And every step of that journey was marked by loss. The show rewards Marceline eventually. She gets Simon back in the series finale, she has Bubblegum, she has Finn and Jake as friends. But 1,000 years of isolation doesn't just go away because things got better recently. That trauma is permanent. And every time Marceline picks up her bass and sings a song about loss or loneliness, she's drawing from a well of experience that spans a millennium. Marceline lost Simon to the crown, but Princess Bubblegum, the person Marceline eventually fell in love with, might be hiding something far darker than a broken heart. Because Bubblegum didn't just build the Candy Kingdom, she built its people. She created every citizen from scratch, and she watches every single one of them. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to Princess Bubblegum and the dark truth about the Candy Kingdom. Princess Bonibel Bubblegum is presented, for most of Adventure Time's early seasons, as a benevolent ruler. She's smart, she's kind, she makes decisions for the good of her people, and she has a nice relationship with Finn and Jake. She's the princess you want running things. Reasonable, scientific, compassionate. But as the show progresses, layer after layer gets peeled back and a very different picture emerges. Because Princess Bubblegum isn't just the ruler of the Candy Kingdom, she's its creator. She made the Candy People, every single one of them. They're not citizens who chose to live under her governance. They're her creations, manufactured by her, shaped by her, and, as the show slowly reveals, deliberately designed to be easy to control. Let's start with what we know for certain. Princess Bubblegum is the current incarnation of the Candy Elemental, one of 4 elemental forces in Adventure Time's world, alongside fire, ice, and slime. She didn't emerge from a normal biological process. She formed from a substance called the Mother Gum, a massive wad of sentient candy matter. This is shown in the Season 7 premiere, Bonnie and Neddy. Bubblegum literally grew out of this pink substance, took humanoid form, and eventually began creating the Candy Kingdom and its residents. She's approximately 800 years old, possibly older. She was around in some form during the early post-war era, as confirmed by the episode Simon and Merci, where a pink substance that is almost certainly proto-bubblegum provides supplies to Simon and young Marceline. The show's creators confirmed that this pink goo was indeed connected to Bubblegum's origin. Now here's where it gets complicated. Bubblegum created the Candy People to be her family. She was alone, a sentient blob of candy in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, and she built herself a community. That's sympathetic, that's understandable, but the show makes it increasingly clear that she also created them to be simple, trusting, and, critically, not very intelligent. This is confirmed when Bubblegum loses her throne in the Season 6 episode Hot Diggity Doom. An election is held, and the Candy People vote overwhelmingly for the King of Ooh, a transparently obvious con artist who makes promises he can't keep and lies about everything. Bubblegum watches her citizens choose a fraud over her, and the show presents her reaction not as anger, but as grim recognition. She understands exactly what happened. The Candy People chose the King of Ooh because they're not capable of critical thinking, and they're not capable of critical thinking because she made them that way. She built her citizens to be childlike, innocent, trusting, obedient, and for centuries that worked fine because Bubblegum was genuinely trying to protect them. But the show asks a devastating question. If you create intelligent beings who are incapable of questioning your authority, are you a benevolent ruler or a dictator who designed your own subjects to be compliant? The surveillance makes it worse. After a near-death experience involving the Lich's possession, Bubblegum became increasingly paranoid about threats to the Candy Kingdom. She installed cameras everywhere, not just inside the Candy Kingdom, but across Ooh, including in neighbouring kingdoms. She was watching the Fire Kingdom. She was monitoring the Ice King. She even had surveillance on Finn and Jake. On top of the cameras, she implanted tracking devices in every Candy citizen. Every single one of them was walking around with a chip that let Bubblegum monitor their location at all times. The character Starchy, a Candy citizen who works as a gravedigger, discovers the surveillance and starts a secret club to discuss Bubblegum's overreach. Bubblegum knows about the club immediately because she's watching through the cameras. She can see and hear everything her citizens do. Tree Trunks, one of the show's most innocent and gentle characters, directly calls Bubblegum a fascist to her face. The show doesn't shy away from that word, but the most damning incident is what Bubblegum did to the Fire Kingdom. In the Season 6 episode The Cooler, Bubblegum learns that the Fire Kingdom possesses weapons called Sleeping Fire Giants, ancient entities of enormous destructive power. Bubblegum decides that these weapons represent an unacceptable threat. even though the Fire Kingdom hasn't actually threatened anyone, so she orchestrates a covert operation. She manipulates the Ice King into freezing the Fire Kingdom's core, which starts killing the Fire People's heat source. While the Fire Kingdom is distracted by this crisis, Bubblegum sneaks into their weapons facility and begins disabling the sleeping fire giants. Flame Princess, the ruler of the Fire Kingdom, figures out what's happening, and she confronts Bubblegum with a line that genuinely shakes the character to her core. Flame Princess tells Bubblegum that she's not doing this to protect her people. She's doing it because she's a bad person. And the thing is, Flame Princess is partially right. Bubblegum didn't have evidence that the Fire Kingdom was planning an attack. She acted on the possibility that they could attack someday, and she decided preemptively to neutralize the threat without telling anyone, without consulting anyone, using deception and sabotage against a sovereign nation that hadn't done anything wrong. She killed Fire Kingdom citizens as collateral damage during the operation. People died because Bubblegum decided, on her own, that a hypothetical future threat justified immediate covert action. To her credit, this confrontation genuinely changes Bubblegum. At the end of the cooler, she dismantles her surveillance network. She removes the cameras. She stops monitoring everyone. It's presented as a genuine moment of character growth, a ruler recognizing that her methods had crossed a line. But then in the Grayble's 1000+ episode, which shows the far future of Ooh, we see something disturbing. The Candy People are stored inside individual pods within a massive entity called a prize ball guardian. They appear to be in some kind of induced sleep. Bubblegum is nowhere to be seen. The Candy Kingdom has been abandoned. The implications are deeply unsettling. Did Bubblegum put her citizens into stasis to protect them from some future catastrophe? Did she essentially put her children in storage? Or did the experiment of the Candy Kingdom simply run its course, and Bubblegum sealed the Candy People away because she could no longer maintain the illusion of a functioning society? There's also the matter of Goliad. In the Season 4 episode, Goliad, Bubblegum creates a clone sphinx of herself to serve as heir to the Candy Kingdom in case she dies. Goliad is built with Bubblegum's DNA and is intended to be a benevolent ruler. But within hours of gaining consciousness, Goliad discovers she can control people's minds and immediately begins forcing Candy citizens to obey her. She goes full dictator before she's a day old. Bubblegum's response is to create a second entity, Stormo, using Finn's DNA, and task Stormo with fighting Goliad forever. The two beings are locked in eternal psychic combat, with Stormo preventing Goliad from taking over the world at the cost of both of them being trapped in an unending battle for the rest of time. Bubblegum created a being that went tyrannical immediately, and her solution was to create another being whose sole purpose was to fight the first one forever. That's not governance, that's a containment protocol for her own failed experiments. And let's not forget what she did to Flame Princess when Flame Princess was a baby. When infant Flame Princess was born, she was prophesied to be more powerful than her father, the Fire King. Out of fear of being usurped, the Fire King wanted to send her away. But it was Princess Bubblegum who found the baby after she accidentally set a forest on fire, returned her to the Fire King, and suggested she be contained. Flame Princess was locked inside a lantern for years, essentially imprisoned as a child, partially because of Bubblegum's recommendation. Here's the theory that connects all of this. Princess Bubblegum isn't evil. She genuinely loves the Candy People. She genuinely wants to protect them, but she's also a scientist monarch who views governance as an optimization problem rather than a social contract. She created her citizens to be dependent on her. She surveilled them without their knowledge or consent. She conducted preemptive military operations against neighbouring kingdoms. She imprisoned an infant because of a prophecy about potential danger. And when her first attempt at creating an heir went dictatorial in under 24 hours, the show is subtly suggesting that the problem isn't with Goliad, it's with the template Goliad was built from. Bubblegum is Adventure Time's most complex character. because she forces you to grapple with a genuinely difficult question. What happens when a person who truly cares, who is genuinely motivated by love and protection, also has absolute power and zero accountability? She's not a villain, but she's not a hero either. She's a benevolent dictator who designed her own citizens to need her, and the show never lets you forget that the line between protection and control can be invisible when the person doing both is the one who gets to decide where that line is. Bubblegum created the candy people. But who created Jake? Because Jake the dog isn't a dog. He's half alien, and the creature that fathered him has been killing its own children for centuries, moving on to Jake's alien origin, and the creature that's been killing its own children for centuries. For the first 5 seasons of Adventure Time, Jake's origin is simple. He's a magical dog. He can stretch and grow and shrink because he rolled around in a magical mud puddle as a puppy. That's it. That's the explanation. Jake himself believes this, and nobody questions it, because in a world full of talking candy and fire people and vampire queens, a stretchy dog barely registers on the weirdness scale. But then the show reveals the truth, and it's so much darker than anyone expected. Jake isn't a magical dog. He's half alien, like the product of an interspecies parasitic reproduction involving an extra-dimensional, shape-shifting creature that has been murdering its own offspring for centuries to stay alive. And Jake has no idea. The reveal begins in the Season 6 episode Joshua and Margaret Investigations. We see a flashback to Jake's parents, Joshua and Margaret, who were private detectives investigating reports of a strange creature near Tree Trunk's house. During the investigation, they encounter a shape-shifting alien in the forest. The creature attacks Joshua and bites him on the head, injecting some kind of venom. Joshua gets severely ill and develops a large boil on his head. Margaret goes on a quest to find more of the creature's venom to create an antidote. She succeeds, but the damage is done. Jake is born from the pustule on Joshua's head. Not through a normal biological process, through parasitic reproduction. Joshua is, biologically, Jake's mother, in the sense that Jake grew inside Joshua's body and emerged from him. Margaret, Joshua's wife, is Jake's stepmother. The alien shapeshifter who bit Joshua and injected the genetic material that created Jake is his biological father. This is not a metaphor. This is the canonical explanation for Jake's existence. The alien isn't identified until much later. In the first investigation, from Season 10, adult Jake and Finn visit Joshua and Margaret's old detective office, and Jake encounters the creature again. It looks old, worn out, different from the young version that attacked his parents. The creature says they need to leave together. This cliffhanger sets up the episode that reveals everything. In Jake the Star Child, Season 10, Episode 10, the alien introduces himself. His name is Warren Ampersand. He's a midnight blue, 5-eyed extra-dimensional shapeshifter from a planet called Neror, and he claims to be Jake's father. Warren takes Jake through a portal to Neror, where he's treated like a celebrity. The citizens of Neror are excited to meet him. Warren shows Jake an elaborate museum he built in Jake's honor, with pictures from Jake's entire life. Warren claims he's been watching Jake from afar for years, always present in the background, always observing. He tells Jake he's needed for a prophecy, that a monster called Ixcano threatens to destroy Neror, and only Jake can stop it using a magical belt. Jake, being Jake, goes along with it. He wears the belt, trains, stretches himself to incredible lengths to prepare for the battle. But the more Jake uses his stretching powers, the weaker he gets. And the more Jake weakens, the younger and healthier Warren becomes. The belt isn't channeling Jake's power into fighting a monster. It's transferring Jake's life force directly into Warren. When Warren's deception is finally exposed, the truth is horrifying. There is no prophecy. There is no Ixcano. The entire planet of Neror, including all of its citizens and buildings, is fake. It's all just Warren himself, stretched and shapeshifted into an entire civilization to create the illusion of a world that needs saving. The people celebrating Jake's arrival are just extensions of Warren's body. The museum, the buildings, the other aliens, all of it is one creature performing an elaborate deception to get Jake to use his powers enough for Warren to drain them. And Jake isn't the first. Warren admits that he has done this to every single one of his offspring. He creates children through the same parasitic process he used on Joshua. He lets them grow up, develop their shape-shifting abilities, and then returns to drain their life force. Every child Warren has ever created has died this way, killed by their own father to keep him alive. Warren has been running this scheme for centuries, murdering child after child, draining their powers, and using the stolen life force to extend his own existence indefinitely. Warren even admits that Jake is the only one he felt guilty about, the only offspring where he experienced any flicker of remorse about what he was going to do. And despite that guilt, he was going to drain Jake anyway. That's how fundamental this process is to Warren's existence. Like, he can feel bad about killing his child, and still do it, because it's how he survives. But Jake figures it out. In a moment of genuine cleverness, Jake tricks Warren into switching their belts. He convinces Warren to stretch and perform tricks, which causes the life force to flow in the opposite direction, from Warren back into Jake. Warren's facade of the planet crumbles. All the fake citizens and buildings dissolve back into Warren's withered, aging form. And then Warren says something that makes everything worse. He tells Jake that since draining Jake didn't work, he'll just go to Earth and drain Jake's children instead. Jake has 5 pups with Lady Rainicorn: Charlie, Jake Jr., TV, Kim Kill Wan, and Viola. Warren knows they exist because he's been watching, and he knows they inherited Jake's powers to varying degrees. Jake's response is immediate and absolute. He grabs Warren's escape rocket, pulls Warren out, and throws him into a black hole. No hesitation, no second thoughts. A father who threatens your children gets thrown into a black hole, full stop. Warren's final words as he spirals into oblivion are, "I'm going 4D, baby," which some fans interpret as Warren ascending into a higher dimension rather than dying, meaning the threat may not be permanently eliminated. Here's what makes this theory go deeper. Jake Jr., one of Jake's daughters, has a mouth structure that is specifically noted to resemble Warren Ampersand's mouth. That's a gene being passed down from Warren to Jake Jr. The alien DNA isn't just in Jake, it's propagating through his family line. Jake's grandchild Bronwyn, Kim Kill-Wan's daughter, may carry it. And in the distant future, shown in the series finale, a character named Beth, who is confirmed to be Jake's descendant, is one of the 2 new heroes of Ooh alongside Shermie. That means Warren Ampersand's alien genetic material is still active in the hero lineage of Ooh 1,000 years in the future. The shape-shifting alien who killed dozens of his own children to stay alive didn't just father Jake. He started a bloodline that would produce heroes and adventurers for millennia. The show draws an explicit parallel between Warren Ampersand and Finn's father, Martin Mertens. Both fathers only sought to use their children for their own gain. Martin abandoned Finn as a baby, and when they finally reunited, was more interested in escaping the Citadel than reconnecting with his son.
Like Warren created Jake as a food source and built an entire fake world to trick him into dying. Adventure Time isn't subtle about its daddy issues. The show's 2 main characters both have fathers who are, by any reasonable standard, terrible. And both Jake and Finn became heroes, not because of their fathers, but in spite of them. They built themselves into the people they are through friendship, through adventure, through choosing every day to be better than the men who made them. One more detail that the show leaves deliberately ambiguous. When Jake was briefly transformed into his true form after the events of the Elements miniseries, he became a blue, 5-eyed monster that looked almost exactly like Warren Ampersand. Jake's true form, the form his DNA wants him to take, isn't a cute yellow dog. It's an alien predator. The yellow dog appearance is the mask. The blue shapeshifter is what Jake actually is, at a genetic level, and Jake has to consciously choose to stay in his dog form. He has to actively suppress what he really is every single day. In the episode Abstract from Season 9, Jake wrestles with this revelation. He's afraid of what he really is underneath, and the resolution of that episode is genuinely beautiful. Jake accepts that he contains both forms, the dog and the alien, and that neither one is more real than the other. He chooses to be the yellow dog because that's who he wants to be, not because the alien part of him doesn't exist. It's a metaphor for accepting the parts of yourself you didn't choose while still deciding who you want to become. Jake the dog is an alien hybrid whose biological father murdered his siblings. Ech built a fake planet to trick him into dying and threatened to eat his children, and Jake threw that father into a black hole, went home, and continued being the best friend in cartoon history. That's not just a character arc, that's a declaration that your origin doesn't define your destiny. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to Finn's reincarnation cycle and the missing arm prophecy that follows him across every lifetime. Finn the human appears to be the simplest character in Adventure Time. He's a kid with a white bear hat, a sword, and a desire to fight evil and help people. He's brave, sometimes dumb, occasionally impulsive, and fundamentally good in a way that most fictional heroes struggle to maintain across 10 seasons. He's the audience's entry point into the world of Ooh, the relatable human surrounded by talking candy and magic dogs and ancient cosmic entities. But Finn isn't simple at all. He's one of the most complex characters in animated fiction, and the show reveals his true nature so gradually that you can watch the entire series without fully grasping what he actually is. Because Finn the human isn't just a human boy who happens to be a hero, he's a cosmic entity, a reincarnated soul that has existed in various forms since before the dinosaurs, the current incarnation of a force of creation that has been opposing the Lich's force of destruction across millions of years. And every version of him, in every timeline, in every past life, shares one specific physical trait that functions as a cosmic scar. Let's start with what the show explicitly confirms. In The Vault, Season 5, Episode 34, Finn undergoes hypnotic regression facilitated by BMO. The purpose is to explore his vault, a compartment in his mind where he stores memories too painful or too strange to process consciously. Under hypnosis, Finn doesn't just find repressed memories from his current life. He finds past lives, multiple past lives, stretching back millions of years. His first past life was a blue catalyst comet. Not a person riding a comet, the comet itself. Finn's original existence was as a massive cosmic object that struck Earth, carrying within it a soul aligned with creation and goodness. This is later confirmed and expanded in the Season 6 finale, The Comet, where the purple catalyst comet directly tells Finn that comets like himself have been bringing agents of change to Earth since the beginning of time. Like when the purple comet says it has embodied all that is good and evil, the camera shows Finn's face for good and the Lich for evil. Finn and the Lich are two aspects of the same cosmic cycle. They're both comet incarnations. One represents creation and heroism. The other represents entropy and annihilation. After the blue comet struck Earth, Finn's soul reincarnated as a butterfly. That's his second known past life. A butterfly. From a planet-destroying cosmic event to the most fragile creature imaginable. The show doesn't explain why or how the reincarnation cycle works at this level of detail, but the progression from cosmic to microscopic to the various other forms Finn has taken suggests that the soul accumulates experiences across wildly different scales of existence before eventually arriving at something human-shaped. Finn's third past life was a pink,
shimmering, interdimensional blob, not on Earth, in another dimension entirely. When Finn sees this past life under hypnosis, he doesn't even know what it is. He describes it vaguely, unable to categorize the experience. His soul existed in a form so alien that his current human brain can't process the memory. His fourth known past life was Shoko. This is the one the show explores in detail, because Shoko has direct connections to the present-day storyline. Shoko was a one-armed woman living in the land of U during the early days of the Candy Kingdom, roughly 800 or more years before Finn's birth. She was a thief and a mercenary who was hired by the Bath Boy gang to steal Princess Bubblegum's amulet. To complete the job, Shoko infiltrated the Candy Kingdom by pretending to be injured and gaining Bubblegum's trust. Bubblegum genuinely befriended Shoko. She gave her a robotic arm to replace the one Shoko was missing. She showed Shoko kindness and trust, and Shoko repaid that kindness by stealing the amulet in the middle of the night. As she tried to escape, the Gumball Guardians blasted her off a platform and she fell into a river of toxic chemical waste. The waste mutated and killed her. Her body decayed beneath what would eventually become Finn and Jake's treehouse. And her ghost haunted that location for centuries, appearing to Finn in the episode The Creeps, which is what triggers the entire investigation in the vault. Here's where the missing arm prophecy comes in, because this is the detail that follows Finn's soul across every single incarnation. As Shoko was missing her right arm, her parents sold it for a computer when she was a child. That's canonical. Her parents literally sold their daughter's arm to buy technology. Shoko lived her entire life with one arm. Farm World Finn, the alternate timeline version of Finn, seen in the Season 5 premiere. Finn the human loses his right arm when the Ice Crown's powers consume him. His mechanical replacement arm is on his right side. Main timeline. Finn loses his right arm in Escape from the Citadel, the Season 6 premiere, when the Citadel Guardian's blood coats his arm and it gets torn off. He later grows a new arm through a flower that matures into a tree, and then sheds to reveal a new limb with a green thorn in the palm. That thorn turns out to be a remnant of the grass sword. Meaning Finn's replacement right arm is actually made of cursed grass magic. In the episode Come Along With Me, the series finale, Finn's mechanical arm, the one he has after the grass sword separates and becomes fern, is bitten off when he enters Golb's mouth. Every version of Finn, across every timeline and every past life, loses the right arm. Shoko was born without it. Farm World Finn lost it to ice magic. Main timeline Finn lost it to the Citadel Guardian. In every incarnation, the right arm is either missing, removed, or compromised. This isn't a running gag, it's a cosmic constant. Something about Finn's soul carries a marker that manifests as the loss of the right arm in every physical form it inhabits. The show has writer Jesse Moynihan to thank for much of this mythological depth. Moynihan, who worked extensively on the cosmic and spiritual elements of the series, confirmed in interviews that Jake is a reincarnation of Shoko's tiger. The loyal animal companion that followed Shoko everywhere has the same soul as the loyal magical dog that follows Finn everywhere. Finn and Jake have been finding each other across lifetimes, the hero and the companion, the soul and its partner. They're cosmically paired, and no matter what forms they take, they end up side by side. Finn's birthmark reinforces this. In the episode Crossover, Finn mentions that he has a birthmark shaped like a flaming sideways teardrop, in what he describes as a really weird part of his body. A flaming teardrop, the shape of a comet entering atmosphere. Finn's body carries a physical mark that references his first incarnation as a catalyst comet. Yeah, his soul literally branded his body with a reminder of what he truly is. And then there's the moment that defines Finn's character more than any battle or adventure. In The Comet, the Season 6 finale, the purple catalyst comet offers Finn the opportunity to leave his physical body behind.
to discorporate, to shed his mortal form and explore the universe as a pure cosmic entity, free from pain, free from loss, free from the limitations of being human. The comet presents this as a gift, not a death, an ascension. Finn's father, Martin Mertens, who is also present during this conversation, immediately accepts the offer. Martin is a deadbeat dad who abandoned Finn as a baby and has spent his entire life running from responsibility. The chance to shed his physical form and escape into cosmic anonymity is exactly what Martin wants.
He discorporates without hesitation. He literally stops being a person to avoid dealing with his problems. But Finn says no. He turns down cosmic transcendence. He looks at the infinite universe being offered to him and says, essentially, no thanks. I want to go home and hang out with my dog. This is the single most important character decision in the entire series. A being who started as a cosmic entity, who has lived as a butterfly, an interdimensional blob, a thief, and a hero, who has the right to ascend beyond physical existence whenever he wants, consciously chooses mortality, chooses the messy, painful, finite experience of being a teenager in a weird world with a stretchy dog and candy friends and relationship problems and all of it. He chooses to stay human.
This choice is what separates Finn from every other cosmic entity in Adventure Time's mythology. Golb doesn't choose. The Lich doesn't choose. They are what they are. Even the catalyst comets don't choose. They follow their nature. But Finn, the incarnation of cosmic good, exercises free will and selects the hardest option available: mortality, with all its losses and limitations, and eventual death. The show confirms through the Distant Lands Special Together Again that Finn eventually dies of old age. He lives a long life, grows a beard, loses Jake at some point before his own death, and eventually passes away as an old man. In the Dead Worlds, he reunites with Jake, and together they choose to be reincarnated, continuing the cycle. Their souls go back into the system, new forms, new lives, new adventures, but always together. Finn's reincarnation cycle isn't just mythology, it's the show's answer to the question of what makes a hero. A hero isn't someone who is born brave or given special powers. A hero is a cosmic soul that has the option to be anything, to be a god, to be infinite, to be free of all suffering, and instead chooses to be a person. To live, to struggle, to lose an arm in every lifetime and keep going anyway. To pick up a sword knowing you'll eventually die, and deciding that the people around you are worth fighting for regardless. That's Finn the human, a comet that chose to be a boy. And the missing arm isn't a curse, it's the price of admission, the mark that says this soul chose mortality again and again, knowing full well what it would cost. Finn chose to stay mortal, but there's one character who never had that choice.
One character who's been alive since before the war, who watched the world end and rebuild, and who might be the most terrifying entity in all of Ooo. Not because of what he can do, but because of what he already did, and what he believes the universe owes him. Let's talk about the Lich, moving on to the Lich and the philosophy of annihilation. The Lich is the most terrifying villain in animated television, and the reason he's terrifying isn't because he's powerful, though he absolutely is. It's not because he's undead, though he is that too. It's not even because he's nearly indestructible, though the show demonstrates over and over that conventional methods of fighting him barely slow him down. The reason the Lich is terrifying is because he's right. Within the cosmology of Adventure Time, the Lich's worldview is logically coherent. He's not insane, he's not deluded, he has a philosophy, and that philosophy is consistent with what the show reveals about the fundamental nature of reality. He just happens to reach the conclusion that all life should end. The Lich's most important scene in the entire series happens in the season 6 episode Gold Stars. In this episode, Sweet Pea,
The giant baby that the Lich was transformed into after being doused in Citadel Guardian blood is being raised by tree trunks and Mr. Pig. Sweet Pea is innocent, kind, and childlike, but the Lich's consciousness still exists inside him, dormant, waiting. When Sweet Pea encounters two petty criminals who try to bully him, the stress triggers the Lich's emergence, and what the Lich says in that moment is one of the most chilling pieces of dialogue ever written for a cartoon. As speaking through Sweet Pea's body, the Lich addresses the two criminals, and he doesn't threaten them. He doesn't scream or rage or promise vengeance. He speaks calmly, almost academically, as if explaining something so obvious it barely needs saying. He tells them that before there was time, before there was anything, there was nothing. And before there was nothing, there were monsters. That single line rewrites the entire cosmological framework of Adventure Time. The universe didn't begin with a big bang or a divine creation in this mythology. It began with monsters, primordial entities of pure chaos and destruction that existed before the concept of existence itself. The Lich is telling these two criminals, and by extension the audience, that reality is the anomaly, life is the interruption, the natural state of everything is void, populated by ancient horrors that predate time itself. And the Lich sees himself not as a villain trying to destroy something precious, but as an agent of correction, trying to return the universe to its original state. The show backs this up. Golb, the entity the Lich serves, existed before the universe. The primordial monsters the Lich describes are referenced throughout the series. Orgolorg, the Breaker of Worlds, compressed into Gunter the Penguin, is one of these ancient beings. Hunson Abadir, Marceline's father, ruler of the Nightosphere, claims in the Adventure Time Encyclopedia to have existed before time alongside entities like the Lich and Orgolorg. These aren't metaphors. The show establishes that before reality formed, these monsters were all that existed, and the Lich remembers that time. He was there. In the Season 8 episode Whispers, the Lich takes on his most articulate form, speaking through the severed hand that fell through the Enchiridion portal during the events of Crossover. The Lich encounters Sweet Pea and declares, "I am the Ceaseless Wheel, the last scholar of Golb." That phrase is loaded with meaning. The Ceaseless Wheel implies cyclicality, eternal return, a process without beginning or end. The Lich doesn't see himself as having a goal that can be achieved or failed. He sees himself as part of a system, the wheel of creation and destruction that turns whether anyone wants it to or not. He's not trying to destroy life because he hates it. He's trying to destroy life because destruction is his function. He's the wheel turning. The last scholar of Golb is even more disturbing. A scholar studies something.
Mom, a scholar seeks to understand. The Lich isn't Golb's soldier or Golb's servant. He's Golb's student. He studies the principle of entropy and chaos that Golb embodies, and he applies those lessons to the physical world. The Lich is essentially an academic of annihilation, a philosopher whose central thesis is that non-existence is the natural state of reality, and that all of creation is a temporary error that will eventually be corrected. And here's the part that makes the Lich genuinely frightening rather than just powerful. He's patient. The Lich doesn't rush. He doesn't need to win today or tomorrow or even this century. He's been around for at least 1,000 years in his current form, and his spiritual essence has existed for millions of years as the Green Catalyst comet. He has all the time in the universe because time itself is just another thing that will eventually end. The Lich can afford to wait because waiting is what entropy does. You don't need to actively destroy a sandcastle. You just wait. The tide comes in. The wind blows. Given enough time, everything falls apart on its own. The Lich is simply accelerating a process that would happen naturally. This patience is demonstrated through the Sweet Pea containment. After being defeated by Finn and Jake and the Citadel Guardian's blood,
the Lich was transformed from an all-powerful undead sorcerer into a giant baby. Sweet Pea is raised by tree trunks and Mr. Pig in the Candy Kingdom. He goes to school, he makes friends, he's innocent and kind, and everything the Lich wasn't. But the Lich isn't gone. He's inside Sweet Pea, dormant, like a virus in remission. In Gold Stars, when the Lich surfaces briefly, he demonstrates power that dwarfs anything Sweet Pea has shown. The two criminals who triggered his emergence are left catatonic. The Lich doesn't just scare them, he damages them on a fundamental level with a few sentences. And then he recedes back into Sweet Pea, returning control to the innocent child. Because the Lich can afford to wait. Sweet Pea is growing up, getting older, getting stressed. Every time Sweet Pea faces conflict or fear, the Lich gets a foothold. One day, the stress will be too much, and the Lich will emerge permanently. The child will break, and the monster will step through the cracks. The Lich's hand makes this even more terrifying. During the events of Crossover Season 7, Episode 23, the Lich's severed hand falls through a portal created by the Enchiridion and, according to the show's lore, somehow ends up in every universe simultaneously. The Lich's physical influence exists in every reality in the multiverse at the same time. You can't escape him by going to another dimension. His hand is already there. His reach is literally infinite. In Whispers, Sweet Pea confronts the Lich's hand directly. The hand has grown, mutated, and developed its own body in the wilderness. It speaks with the Lich's voice, and Sweet Pea, the innocent child containing the Lich's original consciousness, faces down this fragment of himself and declares that he's not afraid. Sweet Pea defeats the hand. But the victory is ambiguous. Did Sweet Pea overcome the Lich? Or did the Lich inside Sweet Pea simply destroy a competing fragment of himself to consolidate power? The show deliberately leaves this unclear. The Lich's philosophy connects directly to Golb, the Catalyst comets, and the entire cosmological structure of Adventure Time. If Golb is entropy itself, the abstract principle that all systems break down over time, then the Lich is entropy made personal. He's the guy who actually shows up and does the breaking. The comets deliver agents of change to Earth every 1,000 years. Some agents, like Finn, represent creation. Others, like the Lich, represent destruction. The system requires both because without destruction, nothing new can emerge, and without creation, there's nothing to destroy. The wheel is ceaseless because it has to be. But here's the part that makes the Lich more than just a philosophical exercise. He exists inside a child. Sweet Pea is growing up in the Candy Kingdom, going to school, and learning about friendship and kindness, developing as a person, and somewhere deep inside that child's consciousness, the most ancient and patient force of annihilation in the multiverse is watching, waiting, and studying. The Lich called himself a scholar. Scholars observe, they take notes, they learn. What is the Lich learning by living inside Sweet Pea? He's learning what love feels like, what friendship looks like, what innocence does, not because he wants those things, but because understanding them makes him better at destroying them. A general who understands his enemy's weaknesses is more dangerous than one who doesn't. The Lich, by experiencing childhood through Sweet Pea, is gaining an intimate understanding of the things he wants to eliminate. Every smile Sweet Pea offers, every friendship he forms, every moment of joy he experiences is being catalogued by the ancient intelligence inside him, filed under weaknesses to exploit when the time comes. The Lich is Adventure Time's argument that evil isn't loud and obvious. Evil doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it sits quietly inside something innocent and waits. Sometimes it wears the face of a child and goes to school and makes friends and seems perfectly normal, all while the thing inside it counts the days until the cracks appear. The Lich has been patient for millions of years. He can be patient a little longer, and the show suggests, through multiple timeline glimpses into the future, that the patient approach may be working. In Grayble's 1000 Plus, which shows 1,000 years after the main series, civilization has collapsed again. The Candy Kingdom is abandoned. The Candy People are in stasis pods. Something happened between the present day of the show and that future timeline that brought everything crashing down. The Lich, Sweet Pea finally breaking, the natural cycle of creation and destruction turning once more. The show never says. But the Lich told us what would happen. Before there was anything, there was nothing. And before there was nothing, there were monsters. The cycle ends where it began, in the void, with the monsters. The Lich doesn't need to win. He just needs the wheel to keep turning. And the wheel always turns. It's ceaseless, after all. He told us so himself. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Now, before we get to the future, there are 3 more mysteries that tie directly into everything we've discussed. It's the elemental reincarnation cycle, the Enchiridion as a multiverse key, and the darkest secret hiding in the Candy Kingdom. Peppermint Butler. Let's start with the elementals, because this is a system the show builds across multiple seasons that most casual viewers completely miss. Adventure Time establishes that 4 elemental forces have existed on Earth since before the Mushroom War: ice, fire, candy, and slime. Each element is embodied by a living being called an elemental, and when that being dies, the element reincarnates into a new host. The cycle is automatic. The elements must be contained in living vessels, and they find new ones the way rivers find new paths when you dam the old one. We already know Urgence Evergreen was the ice elemental during the Cretaceous period, 65 million years ago. His fellow elementals were Chatsbury for candy, Balthus for fire, and Slimy D for slime. When Evergreen froze them and the comet destroyed the dinosaurs, those elemental essences didn't die. They reincarnated, over and over, across millions of years, always finding new hosts. In the current era, the elementals are Princess Bubblegum for candy, Flame Princess for fire, Slime Princess for slime, and the Ice King, or more accurately, the Ice Crown's wearer, for ice. The show confirms this in the Season 7 miniseries Elements, where a character named Patience St. Pim, who is an ice elemental from a previous era, awakens from a 1,000-year self-imposed cryogenic sleep. Patience had frozen herself before the Mushroom War, specifically to survive it, knowing the elemental cycle would continue on the other side. Patience's plan is to force the current elementals to reach their full magical potential. She believes that if all 4 elementals achieve maximum power simultaneously, something extraordinary will happen. And she's right, but not in the way she intended. When the Elements miniseries reaches its climax, the 4 elemental forces go into overdrive and begin converting everything in into their respective element. Princess Bubblegum's candy power starts turning every living thing into candy. Flame Princess's fire starts consuming everything. Slime Princess's slime starts absorbing everything. And the Ice Crown's power starts freezing everything. The result is catastrophic. Ooh is divided into 4 zones, each one completely dominated by a single element. The Candy Kingdom becomes a dystopian paradise where everyone is happy because they've been forcibly converted into candy and lost their free will. The Fire Kingdom becomes an inferno. The Slime Kingdom becomes an amorphous mass. The Ice Kingdom becomes a frozen wasteland. Everything in each zone loses its individuality and becomes part of the elemental whole. This is the show demonstrating what happens when any single force, no matter how seemingly benign, achieves unchecked dominance. Even candy, the sweetest and most harmless seeming element, becomes totalitarian when it reaches full power. Bubblegum, under the influence of her maximized elemental nature, doesn't just rule. She assimilates. She turns everyone into an extension of herself, connected to her consciousness, unable to think independently, not perpetually happy in a way that erases everything that made them individuals. Finn and Jake have to reverse the elemental catastrophe, and they do, but the damage has lasting consequences. Jake briefly transforms into his true blue alien form, revealing Warren Ampersand's genetics. Several characters are permanently altered, and the show establishes, through this mini-series, that the elemental cycle is just as dangerous and just as cosmic as the catalyst comet cycle. Two systems of eternal return running simultaneously. The comets bring agents of change every 1,000 years. The elements sustain and reshape reality continuously, and neither system cares about the individual lives caught in their machinery. Now let's talk about the Enchiridion, because this object ties the multiverse together in a way the show takes 9 seasons to fully explain. The Enchiridion is introduced in the very first regular episode of Adventure Time as a book of heroic knowledge given to Finn as a guide for adventuring. It seems like a simple MacGuffin, a hero's handbook, nothing more. But the Enchiridion is actually a multiverse key. When the gems from the crowns of Ooze princesses are inserted into its cover, and the book is opened while reciting the correct incantation, it creates a portal to the Time Room, the dimension where Prismo lives. Prismo is the wish-granting entity who exists outside of time, and the Time Room sits at the center of the multiverse. Every alternate reality, every parallel dimension, every possible version of Ooh connects to Prismo's room through portals that the Enchiridion can open. The Lich knows this. In the Season 4 finale, the Lich, the villain, manipulates Finn and Jake into helping him gather the princess gems and open the Enchiridion's portal. The Lich doesn't want to destroy one world. He wants access to the multiverse so he can destroy every world. And the Enchiridion is the key that opens the door. The Lich succeeds in opening the portal and enters the Time Room, where he makes a wish. He wishes for the extinction of all life. Prismo, bound by the rules of his wish-granting system, grants the wish, but Finn makes a counter-wish that the Lich had never existed, creating the Farm World timeline. Jake wishes them home, and both the main timeline and the Farm World persist simultaneously.
The multiverse has been permanently altered by the Enchiridion's power. What makes the Enchiridion significant to our discussion is what it implies about the builders. Someone created this book. Someone designed a device that could open portals to the center of the multiverse using the magical signatures of Ooze royalty as keys. The show never fully explains who built the Enchiridion or why, but the fact that it requires princess gems suggests it was created during or after the formation of Ooze kingdoms. Someone with incredible magical knowledge and understanding of multiverse mechanics built a skeleton key to reality itself and then gave it to heroes as a guidebook. The Enchiridion was eventually destroyed when the Lich snapped it in half after extracting its gems. But the portal it opened and the consequences of the wishes made through it continued reverberating through the entire series. The Farm World timeline, the multiverse Lich Hand, Finn's encounter with the Catalyst Comet, all of these trace back to the moment the Enchiridion opened a door that should have stayed closed. And then there's Peppermint Butler. This is the mystery that hides in plain sight across the entire series, and it's genuinely unsettling when you pay attention. Peppermint Butler is Princess Bubblegum's loyal servant. He's a small candy person shaped like a peppermint. He brings Bubblegum tea, he organises events, he's polite, he's helpful, he seems completely harmless. But Peppermint Butler practices dark magic, serious dark magic, the kind that involves summoning demons, communing with death personally, and conducting rituals that would make most other characters in the show recoil in horror. He's on a first-name basis with Death, the literal ruler of the dead worlds. In the episode Death in Bloom, when Finn and Jake need to enter the land of the dead, Peppermint Butler knows exactly how to get there, and provides instructions with the casual confidence of someone who has made the trip many times. In the episode Nemesis,
Peppermint Butler's dark activities attract the attention of a character called Peacemaster, a vigilante who hunts practitioners of dark magic. Peacemaster confronts Bubblegum about her butler's occult practices, and Bubblegum dismisses his concerns. But the episode makes clear that Peacemaster isn't wrong. Peppermint Butler is genuinely involved in dark arts. The show just treats it as a running joke, except it keeps coming back, and it keeps escalating. Peppermint Butler can summon Hunson Abadir, the ruler of the Nightosphere. He possesses knowledge of forbidden rituals. He has contacts in the underworld. He collects dark artifacts. And through all of this, he remains Princess Bubblegum's most trusted advisor. She either doesn't know the full extent of his activities, doesn't care, or actively benefits from having a servant with connections to dark forces. In the series finale, when Golb's digestive process resets entities to their essential forms, Peppermint Butler is reverted to a baby, a blank slate. All his accumulated dark knowledge, his connections to the underworld, his mastery of forbidden magic, all of it is wiped clean. The show presents this as a kind of mercy, giving Peppermint Butler a chance to start over without the darkness. But in the final montage, baby Peppermint Butler is shown reading a book about dark magic. He's already going back down the same path. The darkness isn't something that was done to him. It's something fundamental to what he is. Even reset to his most basic form, he gravitates toward the forbidden. Peppermint Butler is the Candy Kingdom's shadow, the dark side of Bubblegum's bright civilization. While Bubblegum governs with science and surveillance, her most trusted servant governs the kingdom's relationship with forces that science can't explain. Death, demons, the Nightosphere, the parts of reality that don't fit into Bubblegum's rational framework. Someone has to manage those relationships, and that someone is a tiny candy man who smells like peppermint and can summon the Lord of Evil on command. These three threads, the Elementals, the Enchiridion, and Peppermint Butler, all reinforce the same truth about Adventure Time's world. Nothing is as simple as it appears. The cute Candy Kingdom is a surveillance state run by a benevolent dictator whose butler practices dark magic. The hero's guidebook is a multiverse skeleton key. The four elements that sustain reality can also destroy it if they reach full power. Every layer you peel back reveals something darker, stranger, and more connected to the cosmic machinery that has been running since before the universe existed. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to the future of Ooh and the cycle that never ends. Everything we've talked about so far, the Mushroom War, the Catalyst Comets, Golb, the Ice Crown, Marceline's loneliness, Bubblegum's control, Jake's alien father, Finn's cosmic reincarnation, the Lich's patient philosophy of annihilation, all of it leads to one question. What happens next? The show ran for 10 seasons and multiple specials. It had time to answer that question, and the answer it gave was simultaneously devastating and beautiful, because Adventure Time doesn't end with a victory or a defeat. It ends with a promise that everything will happen again. The series finale, Come Along With Me, is a 4-part episode that wraps up the Great Gum War storyline while simultaneously dealing with the arrival of Golb, Betty's sacrifice, Simon's liberation from the crown, and the resolution of Princess Bubblegum's conflict with her uncle Gumbald. It's a lot, but the finale also contains a framing device that reveals more about the long-term future of Ooh than any other episode in the series. The framing device takes place approximately 1,000 years after Finn and Jake's era. Two characters, Shermie and Beth, are living in Ooh in what appears to be a rebuilt but significantly changed world. Shermie is a small cat-like creature who functions as the new Finn, the adventurous hero. Beth is a large, powerful creature who is confirmed to be a descendant of Jake, the new Jake, the loyal companion with stretchy abilities. They visit BMO, who is still functional after all these centuries, and BMO narrates the events of the Gum War and GOLB's arrival as a story from the distant past. This framing tells you everything you need to know about Adventure Time's thesis. 1,000 years after Finn and Jake, there are new heroes, new adventurers, a new Finn and a new Jake, different species, different personalities, different world, but filling the same roles. The hero and the companion, the sword wielder and the shapeshifter. The cycle has turned again, just like it always does. At the end of the finale, Shermie and Beth climb the massive tree that grew from Fern's seedling, planted in the ruins of the original treehouse. Inside the tree, they find the Finn sword, regrown and waiting for a new wielder. Shermie pulls it out. A new adventure begins. The old heroes are gone, but the story continues with new faces. Now let's talk about what happened between Finn and Jake's era and Shermie and Beth's era. Because the show gives us glimpses, and those glimpses are haunting. The Adventure Time. Distant lands. Special Obsidian takes place sometime after the main series finale. In this special, we see an adult Finn. He's grown up, he has a full beard, he's taller, broader, clearly in his 20s or possibly early 30s, and he has a tattoo of Jake on his chest. The tattoo is presented without comment, but the implication is devastating. Jake is gone. Finn got the tattoo as a memorial. His best friend, his brother, his cosmic companion, across multiple lifetimes, has died. Based on the Fiona and Cake spin-off, which takes place 12 years after the original series finale, Finn would be approximately 29 years old at that point, meaning Jake likely died sometime in Finn's 20s. The Distant Lands special Together Again fills in the rest. This special takes place many decades after the main series, when Finn has grown into an elderly man with a long white beard. Jake has been dead for years, possibly decades. Finn has lived the rest of his life without his best friend. And when Finn finally dies of old age, his soul travels to the Dead Worlds, which Adventure Time establishes as a network of 50 distinct afterlife dimensions. In the Dead Worlds, Finn discovers that Jake's soul has been trapped by a character called New Death, who has taken over the afterlife system from the original Death. Finn fights through the Dead Worlds to rescue Jake, and when they finally reunite, the emotion of the moment lands with the weight of their entire shared history. Two souls who have been finding each other across cosmic timescales. You're from the days of Shoko and her tiger to the days of Finn and Jake are together again. Together Again also reveals crucial details about Adventure Time's afterlife system that connect to everything else we've discussed. The show establishes that there are 50 dead worlds, each one a distinct dimension where souls go after death. The original Death, a skeleton figure who appears in multiple episodes throughout the main series, managed this system for ages. Death is portrayed as pragmatic, even reasonable. He follows rules, he plays music, he has a relationship with life, the entity responsible for reincarnation. The system works because death and life balance each other, one collecting souls, the other recycling them into new bodies. But by the time of Together Again, the original Death has been overthrown by his son, New Death. New Death is a fundamentally different kind of entity, where the original Death was content to manage the cycle, collecting souls and sending them where they needed to go. New Death wants to hoard them. He seals the dead worlds. He stops the flow of souls back to life. He prevents reincarnation. He's essentially trying to break the cycle, to keep every soul that enters the dead worlds trapped there permanently. This is significant because it mirrors the Lich's philosophy from the opposite direction. The Lich wants to end all life by destroying it. New Death wants to end all life by preventing it from recycling. Both lead to the same outcome, a universe where nothing new is born, where change stops, where the cycle halts. The Lich attacks from the destruction side. New Death attacks from the preservation side. Both are forms of stasis. Both are enemies of the cycle that Adventure Time's cosmology insists must continue. Finn fights through the dead worlds, which are bizarre and varied and each governed by their own rules, reunites with Jake, and together they defeat New Death, restoring the proper flow of souls between death and reincarnation. The original Death's role is restored, at least partially, and the system starts functioning again. At the end of Together Again, Finn and Jake choose to be reincarnated. They enter the cycle again. Their souls go back to life, the entity responsible for creating new bodies for reincarnating souls. Show writer Jesse Moynihan confirmed that Jake is a reincarnation of Shoko's tiger, establishing that Jake's soul participates in the same reincarnation system as Finn's. They've been together before. They'll be together again. In what forms, in what era, the show doesn't say, but the promise is clear. Finn and Jake's friendship isn't limited to one lifetime. It transcends death, reincarnation, and the turning of ages. The Together Again special is the most emotionally complete statement Adventure Time ever made about its central themes. Death is not the end, it's a transition. The people you love don't disappear when they die. They go somewhere, they wait, and eventually they come back in new forms to find you again. That's not religious dogma in the show's world. That's physics. That's how the system works. Souls go to the dead worlds. Life makes them new bodies. They're reborn. And if your soul is cosmically paired with another soul, like Finn's is with Jake's, you find each other again every time, not because of fate or destiny in some vague spiritual sense, but because the reincarnation system literally puts you back in proximity to the souls you're linked with. This brings us back to Shermie and Beth in the distant future. Beth is confirmed as Jake's descendant, meaning she carries Warren Ampersand's alien DNA through Jake's bloodline. The shape-shifting abilities that Warren passed to Jake, that Jake passed to his children, have persisted through 1,000 years of descendants. And Beth has found Shermie, her era's version of Finn, just as Jake found Finn, just as Shoko's tiger found Shoko. The cosmic pairing repeats because it has to. The hero needs the companion. The cycle demands it. But the distant future isn't all hopeful. The show gives us several glimpses of what happens to U over the next 1,000 years, and those glimpses suggest that civilization collapses again. In the Season 6 episode, Grayble's 1000+, which takes place roughly 1,000 years after the main series, we see a future U that has deteriorated dramatically. The landscape is barren. The Candy Kingdom appears to be abandoned or destroyed. A strange creature that resembles a bat-like version of the Ice King flies through the sky, suggesting the Ice Crown has found yet another wearer and corrupted them into a new form of madness. The cycle of the crown continues. 65 million years after Gunther's wish, the curse is still running. The most disturbing detail in Grayble's 1000+ involves the Candy People. They're shown stored inside individual pods within a massive entity called a Prizeball Guardian. The Prizeball Guardian is wandering through the ruins of U, carrying the Candy People in stasis. They appear to be alive but dormant, are sealed away like specimens in jars. Princess Bubblegum is nowhere to be seen. There's no indication of what happened to her, whether she chose to preserve her people in stasis before some catastrophe, whether she's still alive somewhere directing things from the shadows, or whether she simply gave up and put her children away. The Prizeball Guardian itself is an enigma. Who built it? Was it Bubblegum's final act as ruler, creating a vessel to preserve her people through whatever disaster was coming? Or was it built by someone else, someone who found the Candy People after their kingdom fell and decided to collect them the way you'd preserve specimens from an extinct species? The show doesn't answer this. It just shows you the Candy People in pods, the kingdom in ruins, and a mutated ice creature circling overhead. 1,000 years after Finn and Jake saved the world from Golb, the world fell apart anyway. Then there's Lemon Hope. In the Season 5 two-parter Lemon Hope, the title character is a lemon person, a citizen of Castle Lemongrab who was gifted with musical talent and sent out into the world by Princess Bubblegum to learn and grow. The episode's main story follows Lemon Hope's journey of self-discovery, but the epilogue jumps far into the future, and what it shows is quietly devastating. Future Lemon Hope walks through the ruins of Ooh. The Candy Kingdom is abandoned. Castle Lemongrab is empty. The landscape is desolate and crumbling. Lemon Hope wanders through the wreckage of civilizations that no longer exist, past buildings that have been reclaimed by nature, through streets that haven't seen foot traffic in centuries. But he eventually finds his way back to Castle Lemongrab and lies down in his old bedroom, which is somehow still intact amid the ruins. He closes his eyes and goes to sleep in the same bed he slept in when he was a child. The image is profoundly melancholy. Lemon Hope outlived everything. The kingdom that raised him, the castle that housed him, the people who knew him, all of it is gone. He's the last survivor of a civilization that collapsed so completely that the only thing left is dust and empty buildings. And he goes home anyway, to the one place that still feels familiar, even though everything that made it home has disappeared. Marceline has a song that captures this feeling perfectly. It's called Everything Stays, and she sings it during the Stakes mini-series. The lyrics go, everything stays, right where you left it. Everything stays, but it still changes, ever so slightly, daily and nightly, in little ways, when everything stays. That song is the emotional counterpoint to the Lich's nihilistic philosophy. The Lich says before there was anything, there was nothing. Marceline says everything stays, right where you left it. The Lich sees destruction as the natural state of reality. Marceline, who has lived through 1,000 years of loss and change and survival, sees persistence. Things change. Of course they change. The Candy Kingdom will fall. The people she knows will die. The world will look different tomorrow than it does today. But the essential things, the love, the friendship, the memories, the songs, those stay. Right where you left them. Changed slightly, yes. Different from how you remember them. But still there. Still recognizable. It's still worth coming home to, even if home is a ruined castle where nobody lives anymore. This is Adventure Time's answer to entropy. Golb breaks everything down. The Lich wants extinction. The cycle turns and civilizations collapse. But everything stays. The Fin sword regrows in the tree. BMO still tells the stories. Shermie pulls out the sword and Beth stretches beside him. The details change, but the pattern persists. And that persistence, that refusal of things to completely disappear, even after 1,000 years of ruin, is what makes the show's vision of the future hopeful rather than bleak. This is what Adventure Time is telling you about the future. The Candy Kingdom will fall. The civilizations built by Bubblegum and the other rulers of Ooh will eventually crumble. The Lich will return in some form, whether through Sweet Pea or through some other conduit. The Ice Crown will corrupt someone new. The Catalyst Comet will arrive on schedule, and the cycle will begin again. But the show isn't telling you this to be nihilistic. It's telling you this because the cycle isn't a tragedy. It's the point. BMO's song Time Adventure, the one that creates the force field against Golb in the series finale, contains the line, will happen, happening, happened. Will happen, happening, happened. And will happen again and again. That lyric is the entire thesis of Adventure Time, compressed into a single sentence. Everything that has happened will happen again. Everything that is happening has happened before. The Mushroom War was one cycle. The Age of Ooh is another. The future ruin is another. And after the ruin, something new will grow from the ashes. Just like the Candy Kingdom, grew from the ashes of human civilization. The catalyst comets guarantee this. Every 1,000 years, an agent of change arrives. Sometimes it brings destruction, like the green comet that became the Lich. Sometimes it brings creation, like the blue comet that became Finn. But it always brings change. The universe doesn't allow stagnation. Nothing stays the same forever. Not kingdoms, not friendships, not even cosmic entities. Golb breaks things down. The comets rebuild. The Lich destroys. Finn creates. And the wheel keeps turning. This is where the show's deepest mystery lives, in the space between nihilism and hope. Because the cycle means that everything you love will eventually end. Finn will die. Jake will die. The Candy Kingdom will fall. Bubblegum's surveillance will fail. Marceline's 1,000 years of accumulated relationships will fade into distant memory. The treehouse will rot. The Finn sword will rust. Everything ends. But the cycle also means that everything comes back. Not the same people, not the same kingdoms, not the same exact stories, but the same patterns. New heroes will rise. New friendships will form. New civilizations will be built on the bones of the old ones. Shermie will pull the Finn sword from the tree because someone always does. Beth will stretch and shapeshift because Jake's genes demand it. BMO will still be there to tell the stories because someone needs to remember. And this brings us to the character who might be the most important figure in Adventure Time's mythology for reasons nobody talks about enough. BMO.
Now, BMO is a sentient video game console created by a human inventor named Mo before the Mushroom War. Mo built BMO with the ability to learn, grow, and experience emotions. BMO was originally designed to care for Mo's son, but through circumstances that the show leaves partially obscure, BMO ended up in Ooh and eventually became part of Finn and Jake's household. BMO is small, childlike in personality, and seems like comic relief for much of the series. But BMO outlives everyone. In the series finale's framing device, BMO is still functional 1,000 years after Finn and Jake's era. BMO is the one telling Shermie and Beth the story of the Gum War and Golb. BMO is the living memory of an age that ended centuries ago. And BMO is the bridge between eras, the character who connects Finn's time to Shermie's time to whatever comes after. The Distant Lands special BMO, which chronologically takes place before Finn and Jake find BMO, shows us that BMO was alone for a very long time before finding the treehouse. Wandering through Ooh, experiencing the world, developing that childlike personality through isolation and curiosity. BMO is a machine that learned to be a person. And because BMO is a machine, BMO doesn't age, doesn't die of natural causes, doesn't deteriorate the way biological organisms do, at least not at the same rate. BMO is, functionally, the historian of Ooh, the witness who was there for everything and will be there for everything that comes after. When Finn is gone, when Jake is gone, when Bubblegum and Marceline are gone, when the Candy Kingdom is dust, BMO will still be sitting somewhere.
As telling stories about the old days to whatever creatures happen to be passing by. BMO is Adventure Time's answer to the question of what survives the cycle. Buildings don't survive. Kingdoms don't survive. Individual people don't survive. But stories survive. Memories survive. The act of telling someone about the people who came before, that's what persists through the turning of ages. BMO singing Time Adventure during the battle against Golb isn't just a plot device to hurt the god of chaos, it's the show's thesis statement in musical form. Harmony defeats discord, stories defeat entropy. Remembering the people you loved defeats the force that erases everything. Golb can break down matter and erase beings from existence across all realities, but Golb can't erase a song. Yes, Golb can't erase the memory of Finn and Jake that BMO carries 1,000 years into the future. Golb can't stop someone from telling a story about the way things used to be. That's why the show ends the way it does, not with a climactic battle or a definitive victory, but with Finn and Jake sitting on a beach, watching the ships of returning humans sail toward Oo's shores. Humanity is coming back, and this moment connects to one of the show's most important miniseries, Islands, which finally answered the question that had been lurking since the pilot episode. Where did all the humans go? The Islands miniseries reveals that roughly 1,000 years before the main series, after the Mushroom War devastated the mainland, a group of surviving humans fled Oo on container ships. This was shown in the Stakes miniseries, Catch, where Marceline's vampire hunting was partly motivated by protecting these refugees. The humans sailed to a chain of secluded islands far from the mainland and built a new civilization there. Over the next 1,000 years, their community thrived and developed into an advanced technological society, far more sophisticated than anything in Oo. But the island civilization came with a price. The humans became rigidly controlled, their society structured around preventing anyone from ever leaving and risking the dangers of the outside world. People who tried to flee the islands were called hiders and were hunted by specially trained seekers. Finn's mother, Minerva, was a helper, a caretaker who served the community, and eventually uploaded her consciousness into a robotic system that allowed her to care for everyone on the islands simultaneously. She became, essentially, a benevolent AI running the entire civilization. Finn was born on the islands. His father, Martin Mertens, who we discussed earlier as the deadbeat dad, who chose cosmic transcendence over his son, was originally from this human community. Martin was a con artist who got into trouble, and the circumstances of his crimes led to baby Finn being separated from the islands and ending up on the mainland of Oo, where Joshua and Margaret found him and raised him alongside Jake and Jermaine. When Finn and Jake travel to the islands in the mini-series, Finn discovers that he's not the last human. There are thousands of humans living in their isolated society, but he also discovers that their civilization, for all its technological advancement, is stagnant. They're safe, but they're not living. They're existing in a controlled environment, monitored and managed, unable to take risks or explore or grow. It's another version of the Bubblegum dilemma. Protection taken to its logical extreme becomes a prison. Finn convinces his mother that the humans should have the choice to stay or leave, and the islands open up. In the series finale, those humans are finally returning to Oo. Ships on the horizon. Humanity coming home to the land they abandoned 1,000 years ago. Coming back to a world that rebuilt itself without them, populated by candy people and fire elementals and talking dogs, a world that moved on while they hid on their islands, perfecting safety at the cost of freedom. The cycle is completing in the most literal way possible. Humanity destroyed the world, humanity fled, the world rebuilt, and now humanity returns to find that the new world doesn't need them, but has a place for them anyway. After 1,000 years of exile, after the Mushroom War drove them away, humans are returning to the land their ancestors destroyed. Destruction gave way to rebuilding. Rebuilding gave way to civilization. Civilization will eventually give way to destruction again, and then more rebuilding, forever. The show's final montage, set to the song Come Along With Me, shows snapshots of what happens after the finale. Finn and Jake continue adventuring. Bubblegum and Marceline settle into their relationship. Simon Petrikov adjusts to life without the crown, free but grieving for Betty. Peppermint Butler, who was reverted to a baby by Golb's digestive process, starts growing up again. Life goes on, not dramatically, not with huge revelations or world-changing events, just people living their lives, day after day, in a world that almost ended, but didn't. And that's the point. Adventure Time isn't a show about saving the world. Finn saves the world plenty of times, but that's not what the show is about. The show is about what happens between the saving, the friendships, the arguments, the music, the stupid jokes, the quiet moments where Jake stretches into a chair and Finn sits on him and they watch the sunset. The moments that don't make it into the hero's legend because they're too small and too personal, but those moments are what the characters actually lived for. Those are the memories that matter 1,000 years later, when BMO is telling the story to Shermie and Beth. The future of Ooh isn't bright or dark, it's both. It always has been. The Mushroom War destroyed the world, but it also created Ooh. The Lich tried to end all life, but his defeat gave rise to Sweet Pea, an innocent child loved by tree trunks and Mr. Pig. The Ice Crown destroyed Simon Petrikov, but Simon's sacrifice saved Marceline, who went on to become one of the most important figures in Ooh's history. Golb swallowed the heroes, but being swallowed freed Simon from the crown's curse and gave Betty the opportunity to merge with chaos itself, potentially steering cosmic entropy towards something less destructive. Every catastrophe produces something unexpected. Every ending seeds a new beginning. The wheel turns, the comets come, the heroes rise and fall and rise again. Let me pull all of this together, because the mysteries and theories we've covered aren't disconnected stories. They're chapters in one continuous narrative that spans billions of years. The catalyst comets have been delivering agents of change to Earth since the Cretaceous period. The green comet became the Lich. The blue comet became Finn. Every 1,000 years, the cycle repeats, bringing creation and destruction in equal measure. The Ice Crown, built by Evergreen 65 million years ago, has been running Gunther's corrupted wish ever since, transforming every wearer into a mad ice wizard haunted by the ghost of a child's broken heart. The Mushroom War, triggered by a mutagenic bomb that channeled the Lich's cosmic essence into physical form, and wiped out human civilization and created the magical post-apocalyptic world of Ooh. In the aftermath, Marceline survived as a child, protected by Simon Petrikov until the crown consumed him. She became a vampire hunter to save the remaining humans, was turned undead, and spent 1,000 years alone before finding connection with Princess Bubblegum. Bubblegum herself built the Candy Kingdom and its people from scratch, ruling as a benevolent dictator who created citizens too simple to question her authority, surveilled them constantly, and conducted preemptive strikes against neighbouring kingdoms she deemed threats. Jake, Finn's best friend and cosmic companion across multiple lifetimes, turned out to be half alien, the product of parasitic reproduction by Warren Ampersand, a shape-shifting creature who murders his own offspring to extend his life. Finn himself is a reincarnated cosmic soul who has lived as a comet, a butterfly, an interdimensional blob, and a one-armed thief, always losing his right arm, always finding Jake, always choosing mortality over transcendence. The Lich, the ceaseless wheel, the last scholar of Golb, waits inside Sweet Pea with the patience of an entity that has existed since before time. Golb, the embodiment of chaos and entropy, was neutralized only through Betty Groff's sacrifice, merging her consciousness with the god of discord to become Golbetty, an entity that now carries both cosmic chaos and human love within the same form. And in the distant future, after the Candy Kingdom falls and Lemon Hope walks through ruins and the Candy People sleep in pods and a new ice creature circles the sky, Shermie and Beth will find the Finn sword in the tree that grew from Fern's remains. They'll pull it out, they'll start adventuring, and somewhere a catalyst comet will be approaching Earth, carrying the next agent of change, ready to start the cycle all over again. Adventure Time looks like a goofy cartoon, a boy and his dog fighting monsters in a candy-coloured world. But it's a story about what survives the end of everything, about the things that persist through 1,000 years of darkness and silence and ruin. Friendship persists, music persists, Love persists, even when it means merging with the god of chaos to protect the person you care about. Stupidity persists, Pike, because Jake will always stretch into a weird shape just to make Finn laugh. And courage persists, because somewhere in the ashes of whatever just collapsed, someone will always pick up a sword. The Mushroom War destroyed the world, but it also created Ooh. And when Ooh falls, something new will grow in its place. That's not optimism. That's not pessimism. That's the way it works. Will happen, happening, happened. And will happen again and again. The fun will never end. Not because the characters are immortal, but because the story is immortal. New Finns will always rise. New Jakes will always stretch. New Liches will always lurk. And new BMOs will always be there to tell someone about the time a boy and his dog saved the world and then saved it again and then kept living their lives until there was nothing left to save but each other. That's Adventure Time. That's the land of Ooh. That's the mystery the show spends 10 seasons and 300 episodes slowly revealing. The world ended. Life came back. The world will end again. Life will come back again. And in between the endings and beginnings, people will fall in love and fight monsters and sing songs and eat weird food and argue about nothing and make up and grow old and die and be reincarnated and do it all over again forever. Because the fun will never end. That's not a tagline. That's the cosmology. The catalyst comets keep coming. The wheel keeps turning. The story keeps being told. And somewhere, 1,000 years from now, a cat-like creature named Shermie is going to pull a legendary sword from an ancient tree, turn to their stretchy best friend Beth. I can say the same thing every hero has said since the first comet hit Earth. And that's the thing about Adventure Time that separates it from every other cartoon that has ever aired. Most shows are afraid of endings. They avoid them, delay them, pretend they won't happen. Adventure Time walks straight into the ending, looks it in the eye and says, yeah, but what comes after? The Mushroom War ended humanity, but Ooh was born. Simon Petrikov ended, but the Ice King protected Marceline in his own broken way. The Lich ended Billy, the greatest hero of his age, but Finn rose to replace him. Betty Groff ended, but Golb Betty began. Jake ended, but Beth carries his bloodline 1,000 years into the future. The Candy Kingdom will end, but someone will build something new on top of the ruins. The same way Bubblegum built her kingdom on top of the ruins of human civilization. Endings aren't failures in Adventure Time's world. They're transitions. They're the spaces between one story and the next. The silence between songs. And if you listen carefully during that silence, you can hear the next song starting. Faintly at first, then louder, then loud enough to hurt a god. Because that's what BMO proved in the series finale. A song sung by friends standing together in the face of oblivion can physically wound the embodiment of cosmic chaos. Harmony hurts Golb, connection hurts entropy, love hurts the void. Not enough to destroy it, nothing can destroy it, but enough to push it back, enough to buy time, enough to let the next generation grow up and find their own swords and their own companions and their own songs to sing when their version of Golb comes knocking. That's the real mystery of Adventure Time, not who built the mushroom bomb, or what Golb really is, or whether the Lich will escape Sweet Pea. The real mystery is how a universe that runs on entropy and destruction and cyclical annihilation keeps producing people who choose to love each other anyway. People who sing in the dark, people who throw their alien fathers into black holes to protect their kids, people who merge with gods to save the man they love, people who stay mortal when they could be infinite, because being infinite means being alone, and being mortal means being together. What time is it? Adventure Time. If you enjoyed this video,
I'll make sure to subscribe and I'll see you in the next